The Atari VCS is a console PC hybrid that Atari released over 3.5 years ago. I've covered this on my channel over time, and in today's video, I'm actually combining all the videos that I talked about the Atari VCS. This is a marathon video where I give an objective, honest opinion of the Atari VCS over the period of time it's been out, and hopefully moving forward it can continue to improve and offer a better, more stable experience. I hope you enjoyed this marathon video, and thank you for watching this. Wow, I'm totally shocked. The Atari VCS is not only shipped, but it's arrived at my house. The Immortal John Hancock here, and in today's video, I'm going to be unboxing and giving a first look at the Atari VCS. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell, as I'm uploading videos every week and having a lot of fun. For people not familiar, about 2.5 years ago, there was an Indiegogo campaign in which Atari was making a streaming media device, and it had a limited yet successful campaign. And after 2.5 years, they have shipped to backers. I'm shocked. This is something I didn't believe would ever happen. And in today's video, I'm going to do an unboxing and give a first look at this device. Is it worth it? What do people need to know about it? And who do I recommend this for? So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at this. So here's what I pre-ordered. I got the base unit as well as a modern controller and joystick. Here is the base unit. I got the Onyx. I love the sleek black look. Here are the specs for people interested in that. It's essentially a low-end modern computer, but you know, there's a lot of things that you can do. You can upgrade the hard drive, you can upgrade the RAM. It is customizable. I'm not going to show that in this video. Here's an unboxing of the base unit. Decent packaging inside. It's kind of cool, kind of a nod there to the original Asteroids. Inside, here's the unit itself. Nice packaging. It's got definitely a decent weight to it. It's got 4 3.1 USB ports. You got your basic hookups, Ethernet, HDMI, and power. Pretty sleek looking. I know the design of the case went through several evolutions, so this is what I do believe the final look is going to look like. Here's the power brick. It also comes with an HDMI cable. I'm comparing it here to the original Atari VCS and comparing it to the Atari 2600 Junior, which it's pretty close in size. It's a little bit longer. All right, here is the wireless modern controller, Bluetooth. It looks very close to like an Xbox One controller, which is not a bad thing. I really like the feel of an Xbox One controller. It's got the Fuji symbol on the side. Comes with a 10-foot cable to plug into the console, but it is wireless as well. Here it is. Nice feel to it. We'll see how. I don't know if I like the buttons as much, but definitely it definitely feels like an Xbox One controller. Here it is compared to an Xbox Series X controller. Pretty comparable in size. All right, wireless classic joystick. So a lot of people are excited about this. It is cool that they're selling it separately for those that just want the joystick. Here it is, powered on. It's got kind of a cool light sequence there when it moves around with your direction that you press. It's also a built-in paddle controller. That's kind of cool. And then when you press the fire button, the base lights up. So there it is. There's compared to the original Atari joystick. Shorter joystick itself. I don't know what I think about that. I definitely need more time with this. 10-foot cable comes with it as well. Decent length. Here is the setup for updating it. It has 2 updates. One regular update, as well as the BIOS needs to be updated. Just let it do its thing. Do not power it off. And it was pretty seamless. And so I saw this, I was like, oh no, I had like flashbacks to my other Indiegogo project that I backed, but nope, no problems. It just kind of did its thing. Next, you hook up the controllers. It's pretty easy, kind of explains that process, and then you are creating an account. Wasn't too bad. You also have to make a PIN to log in. You can bypass that. Here's all the legal jargon. Of course you read this, right? Every time, right? Yeah, right. So then you choose an avatar. I kind of went old school. Kind of neat they give some original artwork as options for your avatar. I wish you had more options. And then you go right into the games section, and there is the Atari VCS Vault. This is also available on Steam, very cheap. And so here it is. I mean, of course, they're going to include this. Lots of arcade and 2600 games. My preference on this are the arcade games. I know that some people are really going to enjoy going back and playing those 2600 games as well. So kind of neat to see Black Widow on here. Kind of a forgotten arcade classic Atari did. Here's the arcade version of Asteroids. Plays pretty good. Here is the hard drive space, which is kind of small, just a heads up. And here are the current games and apps. As this video was done, there's a little bit over a dozen games available, and here are the apps. And I actually think the apps section is pretty decent. You can do quite a bit with this, as well as go on the internet with Chrome. Here's Missile Command Recharge. Of the 2 games free that are included with the backer edition, this one's pretty decent. It's also on Steam, very cheap. I had a lot of fun playing this, and definitely this is the game I'm going to be going back and playing. Unsung Warriors Prologue is kind of a extended demo, not a full game. It's okay. It definitely doesn't, to me, showcase the power of the Atari VCS, but it is included and it's free, so I can't complain. Had okay time checking it out. Now, the Endstream Arcade is the streaming service that costs $10 a month. You get a 30-day sample of it, and it has thousands of games. This is available to utilize on PC as well. And I actually thought this was a very decent and interesting service. Is it perfect? No, but it's essentially a Netflix retro game service in which you can play thousands of classic video games, arcade and home. It's got an interesting variety of games. This is a decent service, and it worked as advertised. There are good and bad things about this. First and foremost, it's better than what I thought it was going to be, which it's not a total train wreck. It's here, it's real. I thought the build quality was decent. There are some things about it that are annoying. It has a very loud fan. I do not like the loud fan noise. I think if it's in an entertainment center, or if you're not so close to it, you're not going to notice it as much. But with me capturing footage and having it right there, that fan is very loud. I like the modern controller better than I thought. This is something I need more time with. So far, I'm just so on this. But the challenge with this controller is it's going to have limited appeal to the games that are being provided. Now, the Atari Vault style games, Endstream Arcade, kind of the classic games on Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, those types of games, that's going to be great. But for other modern games, it's not going to work. But I like that they are selling the modern controller and joystick separate. Overall, I think this is going to be an appeal to a very specific crowd. This is not an Atari flashback. I kind of consider it more like a modern day Ouya, and I think it's going to have limited appeal to hardcore Atari fans that are looking for something to tinker with. I do think hobbyists are going to make this a better console. And the whole aspect of modding it to make it a PC, I didn't delve into that, but that's going to appeal to a totally different crowd of people. So it definitely is a hybrid. I think that they did deliver on what they promised. They said that we're going to do. I think the store is bare bones. I think the store needs to be updated, and you know, this is going to be launching officially in spring, and so it's available in 2 places, GameStop and Walmart. I do believe the Onyx is still available at Walmart, but yes, those are the 2 places that you're going to find this. I don't know the current status of availability to still pre-order it. You may want to check it out, but just be warned that projects like this are going to be supported mainly by hobbyists to get the full potential out of them. But overall, I do think it delivered, at least to the backers, and I do not regret getting it. It's way better than I thought it was going to be, and my expectations were pretty low. I think the biggest complaint I have about it, other than a couple gripes about the fan issues, the limited store options, the biggest issue is that price. That price is really expensive. The base unit is $300, okay? That is a lot of bread. For mainstream gamers, you may want to go with something else. If you like to tinker, though, this might be something, if you're real passionate about Atari, you may want to pursue it. But that's it. Way better than I thought. I wasn't expecting much at all. I think it did deliver to at least the backers, and I didn't have any issues setting it up. It was pretty seamless to set it up. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. Hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. That's it. That's the first look at the Atari VCS. What did you think? Comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for the ongoing support. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care. The Immortal John Hancock here, and in today's video, I'm going to be testing Atari's new wireless classic joystick and the paddle compatibility that's built in with it, with several classic Atari games, 2600 games, and arcade games. And so I'm having a lot of fun on my channel. If you're new to coming to my channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and click the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. So this is a cool little controller, and it is sold separately. I know a lot of people are more interested in this controller than the Atari VCS to play your classics on computer or Android compatible console. So sit back, relax, let's take a look. All right, absolute gem here, Tempest. And how does it play with the paddle support of this controller? I love it. Hold down the fire button. You don't have to tap it. It's awesome. The spinner, it feels great. And you can adjust the sensitivity to your liking. Hit the extra button that they added to this controller. I'm really glad that they added an extra button. Opens it up to use on many different games. It's playing great. It's really nice to see that. It's such an awesome game. Love Tempest. Going back old school. Playing one of my favorite paddle games of all time, and that's Warlords. And let's see how it works with paddle support with this classic joystick. Playing the arcade version. The 2600 version is amazing as well. You can have scan lines too on this Atari Vault. I took them off. It looks a little bit better on capturing footage. So once you take out an opponent, another ball appears, or fireball, or whatever that is. It gets pretty intense. You can catch by holding down the trigger. You can catch the ball. You can also turn this feature off, making it a little bit more challenging. You're done. Have to go with the classic here, and that's Super Breakout. And we'll go ahead and start here. A lot of different modes of this game. I'm playing the one where you have to unlock a couple balls here. Oh, not the controller's fault though. User error. Playing great though. Gotta go old school with some Pong here. This is the arcade Pong. And I'm gonna go ahead and do single player, start one player. And here we go. Let's see, I'm not see here. Alright, see how good I do. But yes, I love myself some Pong. I love collecting Pong consoles. I have a Flim Flam 4-player Pong cocktail, kind of a Pong knockoff. I did a video a long time ago with my family on that. A lot of fun. Alright, score. And this controller even rumbles, and you can turn it off if you don't like that. Alright, 2 up. Take that. Working really good though. A lot better than I thought it would be too. I didn't know what I would have. Oh, womp womp. Didn't know what to think of this feature when I first heard about it. Oh. Alright, thought I'd check out another one of my favorite paddle games on the Atari 2600, and that's Circus Atari. And let's get going here. So let's go ahead. Can't adjust the sensitivity. This game is difficult to master. Playing great though. Land just right on the... There we go. That's where your points come. Oh no! This is a timeless classic, Demons to Diamonds, kind of an overlooked paddle game on the 2600. And this is a great, I'm showing the single player experience, but this is a great 2-player game. Now you can adjust the sensitivity. I've discussed this with other games. Oh, taken out. Yeah, it can be pretty challenging. Playing great though. Alright. Got through it. Going with the old school 2600 version of Breakout. Let's check it out. And I'm playing Breakthrough with Catch on and with large paddle. I love that the 2600 had so many different options to play games. It just really, it gave a lot of variations to play timeless classics. I'm going to show you Night Driver. It is a classic paddle game for the 2600. So it's kind of sensitive. You can adjust the sensitivity, and so just barely moving it, I found it plays pretty good. Oh, okay. go for this game. Old school driving. Back when cars were boxy. Have to definitely show the 2600 version of Warlords, which controls very differently than the arcade counterpart. Now, I really liked how the arcade counterpart was controlling on this, and it's just going to take some time. I think part of it is I've played so much of this using a paddle controller. It does feel different, and I don't know if it's how they set up the control, but I'll get used to it. It's still a fantastic game. I could definitely see friends coming together and playing this. Yeah, take that. This performed a lot better than I thought. Overall, I was impressed with what they did with the paddle functionality with this controller, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be satisfied with it. What did you think? What did you think of the games that I've shown? Were those games that you grew up with? Comment below, and thank you for coming to my channel and watching this video. I'm having a lot of fun on my channel, uploading videos every week. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you for the ongoing support. I am almost at 100,000 subs, and thank you very much. This is the Immortal John Hancock. You take care. It has been about 6 months since the Atari VCS has been released to its backers. Now it is out in the wild. June 15th it was officially launched, and in today's video I'm going to talk about my thoughts about it. I've been kind of following updates on Atari Age. I know there's a Discord as well for the Atari VCS, and there's a lot I want to say about it. And so I am an original backer, and I feel that at least Atari has delivered to its backers. Now there's been about 11,000 backers, give or take some. I had very little expectations. You know, I was shocked when I received it. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And so there has been updates to the console and controllers as well as to the VCS store. They have trickled a few games every month onto the store, and I feel like the last 6 months have been like a beta test. You know, they've been using that small user base to kind of give feedback. As of June 15th, you can walk into a Best Buy or a Micro Center and get one in person. And so I know there's future plans of it to become available at GameStop. That is not available yet. Pretty much surprised me again that Atari is moving forward with launching this in public. And so you now don't have to be a backer. You can walk into a store and purchase one. Although that sticker price may shock some of you, it is $400, and so that is pretty expensive. All right, let's talk about realistic expectations, okay? 11,000 back this. That's a very small user base, okay? This is not going to be a Switch. This is not going to be an Xbox One, PS4, PC. As much as people, I think, want it to be that, there's no way it will be that. I have realistic expectations, you know. The Ouya, with the sales numbers, the Ouya sold 200,000 units in its lifetime, okay? And so the Atari VCS has its work ahead of it, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I primarily bought it for games. Know that you can convert this to a PC. I didn't try that. There's about 20 media apps on it as well. You can watch Netflix, you can watch HBO Max, Disney Plus, Hulu, tons of other apps as well. And so if you want to use it as a media device, you can do that. Now you can do that with almost anything else, and so that really wasn't a big draw for me. Primary media device in my household is my Xbox Series X. So I wanted to check out some of the games, as that's the whole reason I bought one in the first place. Now it comes with the Atari Vault and Missile Command Recharge. Those are excellent options. Okay, but above and beyond that, I think there were some games I wanted to check out. I went on Atari Age. I inquired, hey, what are some of the better games on the Atari VCS store? I purchased $50 worth of games. Now I have to say, one thing I like about when you buy a game on the Atari VCS is the price is exactly what you pay. You don't pay tax. It's $9.99, it's $14.99, you pay exactly that. So I'm going to talk about the games in a minute, but first I'm going to bring up Antstream Arcade. I've continued to use that service, and after kind of not playing it for a while, I went back and tried to check it out, and the service works really well on the Atari VCS. Now they do have some type of free service now, and now for people that aren't familiar with Antstream Arcade, it's kind of like a game pass for classic games. And so they offer challenges and high score table, and there is a free option to play it, so you don't have to put anything down. You can play it for free, though it does include ads. I think this is a decent service, and it really fills a much needed gap on the Atari VCS of some of those missing games. I went on and played Robotron, one of my favorites. It's just so fun to go and play that, especially for a challenge. Now, I have Robotron. I have several versions of Robotron. Well, why would I care about playing it on the Antstream Arcade? Well, there's challenges, and so you have one guy. One of the challenges you can do is you can see how high your score can go on one person, and so you compare it to other people. That's a lot of fun. I think that the benefit of Antstream Arcade is it gives purpose to just playing the games. I think that really benefits from the service. And there's some great classics on there. Everything from Metal Slug, Rygar, classic shooters, platformers, you name it. And it has a wide variety of classic games. And I thought overall I'm pretty pleased with the service, and definitely recommend people to at least check it out. And you can play it on multiple different things, not just the Atari VCS, but on the Atari VCS I thought it functioned. If you have a decent internet connection. Now, it will stutter if you don't have a decent online connection. Let's talk about some of the games I bought, and my number one pick for me was Thrustlander. Thrustlander is definitely an homage to the original Gravatar, and I love this game. I love these types of games where you're fighting with gravity in your ship, and you're either taking out enemies, and you have platforms to land on to refuel. They added a lot of really cool upgrade features and radar and weapons. It really gives incentive to go back and play a level over and over and over again with different modes. And so there's a time mode, there's even a retro mode. I really like that about this game. It's my number one pick for playing any games on the Atari VCS, aside from Vault and Missile Command Recharge. Thrustlander is my go-to. Next, there's Guntech, and this is a popular game that's been promoted quite a bit. I found it kind of challenging though, going from Thrustlander to playing Guntech, because it controls a little bit differently. But there are some similarities between the games. I think I like it. I don't love it. You go around various levels collecting coins and objectives, and it just took a little bit to play this after playing Thrustlander. So I definitely need to go back and play it more. It's, again, very affordably priced. Both of these games, I think Guntech, I think it's $20 now. Thrustlander is $14.99. That's affordable. And so it was definitely worth checking out both of the games. There's definitely enough content to justify both games. The next game is Danger Scavenger, and this is like a cyberpunk roguelike, and I haven't put a lot of time in it yet, but what I've played so far I really enjoy, and it runs pretty decent on the Atari VCS. I know some of these games are on other things, but I think Danger Scavenger is another popular one. There is a co-op mode. These types of games are a lot of fun. So anyways, what I've played so far, I really like it, and I'm definitely going to put some more time, hopefully this summer, into this. The follow-up to the Atari VCS Vault is the VCS Vault 2, and it's definitely an add-on. I would recommend this to classic Atari arcade enthusiasts or fans of the Atari 5200 games. It has both of those, a few Atari 2600 unreleased games and homebrews. I liked it. For $5, it's definitely an inexpensive add-on. It adds some games that you may not have played in quite a long time. I'm a big fan of the Atari 5200 baseball, so it was nice to see that on here. Overall, where do I think the Atari VCS is now, today? I think it just launched. And so the real work begins now. They are going to need to do a lot of work in the next 6 months to prove to others, to justify that price of that console. Let's talk about that. That price needs to come down. In its current form of $400 with both a classic and modern controller, that is too expensive. I think it needs to come down at least $100. That's just my opinion. Other people may justify that. Well, you can turn it into a PC. You can convert that, or you can do this. You can modify it. You can upgrade it. That's fine. For me, I think the price is too high. And sales numbers speak. You know, if it doesn't sell, they're going to have to justify either adding more content or lowering the price. Either one is going to happen, I guarantee it. Atari needs to announce their next steps. I was waiting for E3 for them to announce something publicly. Now, they have done some nods on their website. They're talking possibly about adding some emulators to the VCS store. I think that would be great for people to easily be able to add additional content to their console. Do I think that's going to really boost sales numbers? It's hard to say. It really comes down to content and price. And is it something for everybody? Now, I did have an issue with my modern controller. The controller came with it. I'm having a connection issue, especially when playing Thrustlander. I would just play a game and then it would just stop. And so I had to exit out, hardwire it to the console with the cable included, and then I had to back out and then come back in, turn it on, and then disconnect the cable, and then it would work. So I don't know. I've completely updated the controllers. The controllers do have their own updates, so it's important when you have your console to make sure to update both the console and the controllers. I had a connectivity issue, and so I did reach out to Atari customer service, and I'm awaiting a response to see what I can do next. This is mostly still an Atari enthusiast device. This is not a mainstream device. If you hate Atari, this is not going to change your mind about it. If you didn't grow up with Atari, this is not going to change your mind probably. You know, you're probably going to stick with your Switch, PC, Xbox, PS4. For other fans out there curious or want to tinker with something that Atari's made today, might want to check it out. Might want to wait for a sale, might want to wait for additional content. I think all those things are a good idea. I don't hate this device. I'm an original backer. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm in the middle. I give it a pass currently because I think the work begins now. I think that they need to add additional content and lower that price if they want the VCS to be successful. And that's it. That's my rant about the Atari VCS and the first 6 months of having one. What do you think? Have you got to check one out? Were you a backer? Have you seen one in action? I think part of the challenge too is sometimes we all form opinions about things before seeing or playing actual games. And so that's kind of tough. I kind of call it the ET effect. You know, a lot of people hated ET without playing it themselves. I think we all have to sometimes take a step back and experience something if we can for ourselves to finally form an opinion. And this is just my experience with the Atari VCS from having one hands-on, backing one, and that's it. So what did you think? Comment below. Thank you for the ongoing support. I want to appreciate everybody coming to my channel as I upload videos every week. If you haven't subscribed, click the bell as you'll be notified for upcoming videos. And I want to thank everybody. This is the Immortal John Hancock. You have a good day. It has been a year since the Atari VCS started rolling out to backers. I was one of those and was really surprised when I got it. The story of this year has been, you know, what hasn't came out. So it was really nice to see the Atari VCS able to roll out their console to backers, and then later on in the year, it actually rolled out to retail stores. That's right. GameStop, Best Buy, Micro Center is just a few of the stores that pretty much got this console in stock. This is an update to my 6-month video. And, you know, I had a lot of things I wanted Atari to accomplish. They accomplished some. They need to do more. I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we're going to start with the good. And this is not going to be a trash session, as, you know, I think Atari is trying. And so we're going to first start out with those positive things. I've purchased about 2/3 of the library. A lot of the games are on sale, and I wanted to experience what does the VCS have to offer on its Atari VCS side. Now you can mod this and turn it into a PC, and you can put emulators on it. I'm not going to show that in this video, but that is an option for the Atari VCS. I'm really looking at it as a console. Where does it stand? What does it offer? And what are most people gonna see if they purchase an Atari VCS without modding it or getting real technical with, adjusting the RAM or, playing it PC mode? The biggest positive of the library has been the Recharge series. Now, they did have the Missile Command Recharge, which was an early title for the Atari VCS. Since then, they have offered 3 new recharged games: Centipede, Black Widow, and Asteroids. Black Widow is probably my favorite, but I really have enjoyed what Atari has done with the Recharge series. Is it enough to justify getting an Atari VCS? No. These games are available on many other platforms, especially Black Widow Recharge and Asteroids Recharge. They're on almost everything. All Switch, PS4, Xbox One, PC, you name it, it's available. And the nice thing about the Atari VCS is that it does have some additional challenges for achievements, and it is a lot of fun to play with this. And this is the classic controller, and I think this is a fun way of playing those recharged games. So you can play this using the Atari VCS. You can purchase this separately, and it does work with some other things. And so if some people were curious, does it work with this console or that? No, I mostly played it on the Atari VCS, but some different control options specifically for the Recharge series. So that's a lot of fun messing around with that controller. Wish the controller was a little bit cheaper, but you might be able to find it used or on sale. There'll be a link below if you're looking for one. Of the games that have came out, it has been kind of a trickle with new games, and I'm going to get into that later. I'm going to talk about some of the games that I did enjoy checking out. Sydney Hunter and Curse of the Mayan. This is done by Collector Vision. This is available on some other platforms, but I think it's a welcome addition to the Atari VCS library. There's a lot of people that probably have picked up the Atari VCS for some classic gaming. I think you're going to really enjoy this game. And if you haven't played it, it's cool that it's offered on the Atari VCS. And, it's a great side-scrolling adventure game. It's well done, great animation. It definitely has a good feel to it. I like these types of games, and I think it definitely is a welcome boost to the Atari VCS library. There's 4 different Airy games. I just chose the original, but this is kind of a chill, kind of fly around, collect items, go to the next level. It's got really cool music, and it has a couple different graphic options. But I found myself just relaxed and playing this game. I think the Airy series is pretty cool from what I've checked out, and I think Atari needs more 3D games like this. So it was nice to see a light 3D game on the platform. I want to say a lot of these games are very affordable. They're in that $10 or less range. Especially there's a big sale going on right now till early January, and so you can pick up a lot of these games fairly cheap. I purchased several just to experience them. I wanted to see what the Atari VCS had to offer. Another interesting one that I enjoyed was Pedra. Pedra was another game that I enjoyed playing. It was a puzzle game, and I've been kind of more curious and want to check out more puzzle games. I don't know if that's just my gaming taste changing. It's a very challenging game, but again, for like $4 or $3 plus, this is a good affordable option if you're looking for something a little different. Definitely check out Pedra. It's a very challenging game, kind of like a cross between a puzzle game and Q*bert is the best way to describe it. And so those are some of the newer games that came out in the last 6 months. Atari knows that they need more content for their VCS, and what they have done is rolled out Atari 7800 games, and that is a huge welcome addition to the limited library. And so I personally, my 2 favorite picks for the Atari 7800 games on the new Atari VCS would be Food Fight, which is a great 7800 classic, and Dark Chambers. And so it's not the only way of playing these, but it's a nice welcome addition to the Atari VCS library. Each game is about $3 if it's not on sale. And so I found that to be refreshing. Atari has done a Flashback Friday where they've offered a lot of classic games offered on Friday. I would like to see what else is next, but they have offered about nearly a dozen, I think 11 or 12 Atari 7800 games so far in the library, and it's nice. It's nice to see that. All right, let's jump into some of the positive apps. Now, the big thing with Atari VCS is the streaming services that it offers. The best one in which Atari now has invested in themselves is the Antstream Arcade. I found this to be a great addition. If you haven't checked it out, it's free. There is a free version of this. You can play this on mobile, PC, even an Amazon Fire Stick. But the VCS is one of the few consoles that offers this. And so I think it's a great service where you can check out a wide variety of arcade and classic computer games, even some console versions of famous games like Pac-Man, Metal Slug, Bubble Bobble. And you get these gems and whatever. You get so many times you can play. You can watch a commercial, you can earn more gems. Now, you may not want to mess with any of that, and I don't blame you, but the service works. I did enjoy finding myself playing this, and I think it has a nice wide selection of classic video games. It's like a Game Pass for classic video games, and I think that it is a good service, and I think it is nice to see that being offered, especially on the VCS, because it has a limited library on its own. The next thing I had to check out was Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now, I have an Xbox Series X, and I have the Ultimate Pass, which you need Game Pass Ultimate to play cloud gaming through the Atari VCS, but I checked it out and it does work. It is functional. Now, it does look a little ugly compared to, I would say like an Xbox One or an Xbox Series S or X, but if you're wanting to play Xbox games through the beta cloud service, you can. It is functional. You do need a mouse and keyboard, I do believe, to get into it. And then I wasn't able to use the modern controller, at least it's in beta, to play Halo. I used an Xbox Series X controller wired to my Atari VCS to play, but it worked. And so that's the positive. Okay, that's everything that Atari, I think, on the best day is doing right. Now, there is some bad and ugly things too, and I have to bring those up. In total, there's only 45-ish games that you can purchase on the Atari VCS right now. In the last 6 months, they've only released 10 new games with about 11 Atari 7800 games. So 21 or 20 to 21 new games in the last 6 months. That's not many at all. Compared to its competition, the Switch has thousands of games. Xbox One, PS4, Series S and X, you name it, other platforms have way more choices to game. If you don't include the Antstream Arcade or, converting it to a PC. So that's its biggest challenge right now. I kind of feel like this harkens back to the days of the N64 where you're just hoping a game comes out every month. And that's the challenge right now. Atari needs to do a better job at announcing what games are coming out when, and it's just been a drip service. It's been dry. It's been dry coming out with new games. The Recharge games are great, but so many of their games that they offer are offered on other platforms as well. That's the challenging part right now. The server issues over the holidays for both Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and even Christmas. Several people had complained that they weren't able to log in, and that's something Atari has to address. As of today, which is after Christmas, I didn't have any issues of getting into my profile and going to the store and checking things out. But I know many people did. They had a lot of problems with getting into the Atari VCS store and checking out things. The two things that are probably the ugliest about the Atari VCS is first the sales. Okay, if you go back and compare this to an Ouya, which is a total failed console, and one that I actually enjoyed, the Ouya sold about 200,000 in its lifetime. That, you know, and that's still fairly low considering the Nintendo Switch just surpassed 100 million consoles sold. So the Atari VCS, while it hasn't released its official numbers, I predict, I guess, this is just a guess, it's probably in the low tens of thousands. So maybe 20,000, maybe 15,000, who knows? But this thing is not flying off the shelves, and it comes down to the other ugly part, and that's the price. I complained about the price during my last talk about this, and it's still way too high. It's not at that sweet spot. There was a temporary sale where you could get this fairly cheap in the $250 range, I do believe, at Micro Centers. It had to be in person though, and every now and then there's a sale. But right now there's a sale, but it's still $350. Does come with the classic controller and a modern controller. So that is the biggest and ugliest thing. The price is way too high, and it's not getting the general public to want to invest into this hardware. It's still hobbyist. This console still is for hardcore Atari fans and collectors, and really outside of that, I don't see anybody picking this up. I don't blame them. It needs more games. It needs to have a better schedule of what's coming out, and that price of that hardware needs to come down. On top of, hopefully they can fix server issues moving forward, as there was several people that had issues getting this. Do I think it's terrible? No, it does need improvement. It needs to have a cheaper price. It needs to have more games. And they need to do a better job at marketing this thing. I still think it lacks identity. It's trying to be everything, and I think at the end of the day, it just falls short. So that's it. I hope you like this opinion of the Atari VCS after 1 year from a backer. What do you think? Have you checked out an Atari VCS? Did you even know it came out? Comment below, and as always, thank you so much for coming to my channel. I enjoy doing these videos, and I have many more planned. Check out my other videos I've done, everything from ranked games, bad video games, and so on. Thank you so much. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you have a good day. It has been a while since I talked about the Atari VCS, and as an original backer, I thought I would do a video today reflecting upon the latest 6 months with this crazy journey with this oddball console PC hybrid. You know, this is something that not a lot of people have the opportunity to experience themselves. You know, the sales numbers of the Atari VCS are fairly low. I'm going to give you my thoughts about it. I have lots to say. I'm a huge Atari fan. I cover everything from consoles to some PCs of Atari products, everything from Atari ST. I just did an Atari 7800 video, and in today I'm going to just talk about kind of what do I think, where they're going, what have they done, what do I think, and you know, I've done some other videos on this topic, and I would like to share what do I think. All right, so this last 6 months, Atari really has done an eclectic gathering of games and apps on the VCS. And, you know, they started off the year continuing to offer more Atari 7800 games. And, you know, they weren't the best games, but they were games I think some people remember. You know, Centipede was pretty good. You can't use a trackball on Centipede on the VCS, but they offered it. Fatal Run was another game that they offered, and these games are fairly affordable, like $3. And so I bought all the 7800 games that they have offered on the console, as I think I wanted them to offer even more different consoles on the Atari VCS. You know, Atari Lynx is on the Evercade, and I was really hoping that they would offer some Lynx games on the VCS, and for whatever reason they haven't. As well as additional Atari classic consoles and computers, legacy consoles and computers, as I think what they mentioned them as, but they just haven't, and I don't know why, but definitely was kind of a head scratcher there, because after they went with you know, the Atari 7800, they were just offering some oddball ports. You know, there was a lot of people requesting Tempest 4000. I don't think it's a great Tempest. I'm just going to say that. I like the original arcade one, and I think the Atari Jaguar one is my favorite, Tempest 2K. Tempest 4000, especially with the classic controller, is not that great. It's not calibrated for it. I don't think it does a good job controlling it. It was just all right. But, you know, it was still offering something very reminiscent of Atari on the Atari VCS. So while it's not the best version of Tempest, at least they were trying. They also offered rally racers. They were kind of going for like that, you know, Mario Kart style game. It's a really cheap, kind of looks like a cell phone game. It's on Switch and Steam as well. It's just another example of, you know, Atari VCS trying to offer, you know, the Atari really trying to offer something that was available elsewhere. But anyways, that came out, and there's some people that like that. But then they just took like a left turn, and they started offering a lot of DOS-based old classic PC titles. Lots of micropose ports, and you know, there was like some flight sims and some classic war strategy games. And then they even had micropose soccer. And you do need a mouse and keyboard to get it going. But yeah, they offered that, micropose soccer. I know there's some fans of that. You know, for me, and I think the majority of people that have the Atari VCS, I don't think anybody really cares. But they offered it, and it was just kind of a head scratcher for me, because it's like, you know, I think there's a lot of Atari fans that want them to do a better job at celebrating Atari. And they have classic IPs that they control. Just those are ones that I don't know. That's the part of this last 6 months I was just like, really, Atari was losing me with what they were doing with the VCS. But then another strange thing that they did was they were offering standalone 2600 games on their store for 99 cents. When, in fact, if you have a VCS, you can get these same exact games for free. That's right. They were charging for 2600 ports that were part of the Atari Vault. That makes no sense. And that was like the big, like, what are you thinking part of this last 6 months that Atari's done with the VCS, or the remnants of Atari. You know, I fully understand that this is just a shadow of what the company once was. It's a very small company, and they're doing their best at offering something. You know, for me, I'm fairly forgiving of this PC console hybrid. You know, and it's still around, so that's something. Then the good news. The good news is Atari got really smart, and they continued that Recharge series, which I honestly think is some of the best things that they've done and offered with this new version of Atari. And so Breakout came out. I think Breakout was one of the better games, and it is a good use of that classic controller. But I have to say, my favorite Recharge game is Gravitar Recharge. I'm a huge Gravitar fan, and when that came out and they offered that, I did a Facebook video on it, and I really think that they did a good job. You know, and these Recharge games are being offered on Steam, Switch, other, you know, Xbox, PlayStation. I mean, they're offered on other modern platforms that are out there, but I do think that there's some people that are really drawn to the Atari versions. There's slight differences there. There's a different achievement, I think additional achievements to some of these games, but they've done a good job with that. And Gravitar is awesome. I really like what they did with that. That's like, you know, the strength of what they've done. They also offered a new IP. I talked about it on my channel. Combinera is kind of a puzzle game, and I enjoyed that. It was actually kind of a fun game. And then, you know, everything that they offer like that, and then they offer an oddball like Caddy and Batty. And you know, they probably got that cheap, or you know, the publisher wanted to offer it on the Atari VCS. Not a bad game, just something I don't think of when I think of the Atari VCS. But nevertheless, kind of a unique puzzle game with unique art style. It's just like, you know, Atari, it kind of reminds me of like trying to make a meal, going into the fridge, and you have like these really oddball leftovers and smashing them all together and trying to make something that's palatable. And that's what I think of the Atari VCS. It's just really an eclectic combination of things that doesn't really still have an identity. But Atari, I do believe, is trying. So the good news is I think things are slightly getting better. And so after the kind of the weird start of the year, they started offering some awesome games. Now, Donut Dodo, this is a great indie game. It's a $5 release. It's on iArcade, it's on Steam, and it's on the Atari VCS. And that, by hands down, one of the best kind of like throwbacks to like an early 80s arcade game in the same vein as, Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong. It's got that classic arcade feel, and I really enjoyed that game. Just a lot of fun. Played it quite a bit, and it's a great fit on the Atari VCS. Next is a brand new game that just came out, and that's BPM Boy. And if you like Marble Madness, it's like a kind of a marble style platformer. It's a platformer in which you're controlling a ball, and there's really well done designs, and I've really enjoyed what I've played of it so far. This is where Atari, I think, is hitting its stride the best it can. It's not going to compete with Xbox or PlayStation or Switch. This is not that type of console. If you're getting this, you're supporting, what Atari is now, or understanding that this is just really just a hobbyist, serious Atari enthusiast console PC hybrid, and nothing more. I don't expect more. I'm just happy they're still around. And I've like I said, there's about 60 games on this console, and is that enough? I don't know. The sales of this are really low. The software isn't really selling either. It's kind of existing. I'm happy to see that it's still around. I'm curious to see where it's going. I think the other thing too is I think they do want to continue to support it. Looks like that way, and I just don't know. I don't know how much of a future this console has. And so the two apps the two accessory or apps that I think that I personally still use, I do think the Xbox Cloud Gaming beta, that's kind of cool that you can use Xbox Game Pass, if you have an account, and you can go in and you can play Xbox games on this, through the cloud. And so I was playing Jetpack lately, and that's cool. That's cool that you can do that. I don't know if I'm going to do that every day. I'm going to get on my Xbox Series X and play it that way. But I do think that that's a cool feature, especially if you had this maybe in a separate room. It's one way of playing Xbox gaming if you don't have access to an Xbox console or PC. The other thing, too, is the AntStream Arcade. I've talked about this before. I do think it's one of the better apps for the Atari VCS, and it works. It fills in that void of all the games that Atari still has not allowed or able to get the licensing deals. Playing Gauntlet. That's one play of playing Gauntlet on an Atari console is using AntStream Arcade. And Ninja Gaiden's another arcade, another one. There's tons of arcade games and ways to play classic PC games and console games. AntStream Arcade is still a great service, and so I do think that kind of fills a partial void because the software hasn't always been there for the VCS. I do think it is getting slightly better. Now, the future. We have Atari's 50th anniversary at the end of the month. That's going to be huge. And I do wonder what they have in store for that. The only game that I really know that's coming is Food Fight. I don't know when Food Fight's going to drop, but they did announce that the remake is being done. I'm a huge Food Fight fan, and I know that's going to be a big game, and that's definitely very Atari. So I'm excited to see. I'll look forward to seeing when that more information about that drops. If I was to give the Atari VCS a grade overall, and I'm being very objective here, I'd probably give it a C-. I do give it a pass. I do think it needs to be a lot better. The big thing why it's such a low grade is that price. That price, I've talked about this for a while. That price is way too high. There was a fire sale at GameStop. They are still selling the console at full price, and in person, the price is reduced at GameStop. But, for the most part, everywhere else is selling this console with a classic controller and a modern controller for $400. That's way, way too expensive. You can get a Switch significantly cheaper than that, especially a Switch Lite, even an Xbox Series S for $300. They have to be more competitive with that price if they care about selling hardware. I don't know. I still sit back and wonder, what are their goals with this hardware? How long do they plan on supporting it on the market? It is definitely a head scratcher for me. I wonder sometimes if they just are doing their best and just trying to get anything on it and just see if anything sticks. But that's it. It's a C- for me, 18 months in. I'm hoping it can survive, maybe another 6 months. I think it's going to be tough in the long run if they don't do something, though. I don't see stores continuing to offer this if it's not going to sell. Stores typically aren't going to keep something on the shelves if it's not going to move. They're going to use that shelf space for something else. For the most part, this is being sold online, so that is less of an issue. But that's my thoughts. What did you think? What do you think of the Atari VCS? Is that something that you eventually want to get? Are you waiting for a sale? Do you have one? Are you satisfied with it? Please comment below. And as always, thank you for coming to my channel. I cover lots of different things from Atari to Xbox, and I want to thank you for coming here. And if you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal Johnny Hancock, and you have a good day. Over Black Friday sales, Atari offered some new hardware, and this is the PC mode USB for the Atari VCS. And I was excited. I was able to purchase one. It was on sale. And what this includes is Debian GNU Linux. It's an open source operating system. I hope I'm saying this right. This really isn't my specialty. And one thing I really wanted to cover on my channel, and you essentially put this USB stick into your Atari VCS, and with a mouse and keyboard attached, or if you have a wireless setup, that's fine. You then can go into PC mode with your Atari VCS. It already just boots right into it, and you do have to update the software that you get. And so this is a pretty unique project. Now, you can get this software available everywhere else. It is free, open source, I do believe. Interesting that Atari was selling this, and I don't know if they were offering it just as free software on their little Fuji stamped USB stick, but here it is. This is the software that comes on these. Now, many people may know about this. This is not my wheelhouse and not my specialty, but I'm jumping right in. So all this is fairly new to me, so bear that in mind when I'm discussing this. And it might be new to you, but anyways, lots of free software out there that many people have worked hard at offering to others since, I think this project started in 1993. And there's just tons of free games and emulation, and there's just a multitude of ways to game open source, and it's really cool to see this. And I know that there's a lot of fans out there. I have a buddy that's a big Linux fan, and this is not something that I delve into too much, but I wanted to show this really does expand the capabilities of the Atari VCS. I was kind of intimidated by getting one of these and not knowing what to do. Well, it was fairly easy to navigate. You do have to update the software and just follow directions once you plug in the USB stick. And again, you need a mouse and keyboard with this, with your Atari VCS, to fully take advantage of all its capabilities. But this is much more than games. This makes it a full-fledged operating computer with programs and applications. So this is not a full review. I'm really just talking about some of the gaming software and just touching a little bit on it. and giving you my first thoughts. I know there's a lot of experts out there, and definitely in the comments below, I want you to share with me what other emulation do I need to check out on this, and what other games do you recommend using this software. This was Endless Sky. This looked pretty interesting. It was highly reviewed, and it looked kind of like a space exploration type game. I didn't play it too much at all. Just really wanted to show some basic software that was offered on this, or share some of the emulation, including I'm going to be talking about Steam, which is a big deal and adds quite a bit to the Atari VCS package. So using a browser, I was able to search for Steam, install Steam. You do have to update it. Not all the games on Steam will work through your Atari VCS with this current setup, with this USB stick, but there are games that do work. And Torchlight 2 is one of them, which is one of my favorite Steam games. I've talked about this before. I'm a huge fan of Torchlight 2. This to me was kind of the sweet spot for the series, and always will be kind of a favorite of mine. I had a lot of enjoyment with this game. I still try to play it. I just have so many games to play with now. But this is definitely one, and it works great. This is running on, VCS hardware. And if you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell. Over half of you watching are not subscribed. Do so now if you like what you see. Alright, emulation. I wanted to check out the emulators that were offered straight from the applications that were on this stick. And here's Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Advance running great. And this is Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And this is another one of my favorite games of Capcom, and this Game Boy Advance version is kind of a unique one. It's got a little bit of this and that, and I really enjoy it, and it's running great here. And I know a lot of people are playing emulation wise these days, as it's a great way to check out a game, or maybe you just like many people just don't have your original hardware anymore, and you just want to go the emulation route. This might be an option for you. The emulations are there, but you have to get your own ROMs, and so there's no ROMs included on this. It's just the emulator, so you do have to get your own ROMs. Here's NES being emulated, and this is Cowlitz Gamer's Adventure and Cowlitz Gamer's second adventure, which actually is going to be offered on an Evercade Indie cart coming soon to you. And so, but these are some great games that I was connected to, and really nice to see them running great on this. And so this is MT's work, and he's a fantastic programmer, and just a brilliant game. And I know some speedrunners like playing this game, and I can see why. But anyways, just wonderful to see these projects come, and nice to see that they're working great on this. And, emulation might be the way to go, but again, this is running through a VCS, so maybe you don't have a Nintendo, you don't have a lot of consoles. Well, this makes it like a PC where you can emulate many different things. Here's N64. Again, I'm not going to have the best control in this one right in particular. I had to have time to set up a controller. And I was trying to use my VCS controller. I'm sure if I spent more time I could tweak it. But it's not running full screen. I could probably tweak with the settings to make that work. But here's Robotron 64. And this is a game I do appreciate. I'm a big Robotron fan, but just wanted to show it's running, and so even if it's windowed, it's still fully functional. All right, Stella. Stella is one of the best Atari 2600 emulators, and I had a prototype ROM for Spy Hunter. So what I did was just checking it here, and it popped right up. And Stella is just an amazing emulator for the Atari 2600. Highly recommend it. And Stella, another emulator that's built in into this, and that's really neat that they're offering that. So you can play literally any Atari 2600 ROM that you have. Fantastic. Great version of Spy Hunter, by the way. If you haven't played the 2600 version of Spy Hunter, it's very impressive. And just wanted to share that. Very sweet to see it And, you know, it's running great. And, you know, there's different tweaks you can do. You can do filters and full screen mode if you want. I just wanted to show it here. And very impressed with this unique USB PC mode USB stick that they're selling, or were selling, or I don't know if they're selling it anymore. I mean, it literally was on sale for like a week, and then it was sold out. And Atari's kind of weird like that. I don't know how many of these made, if it was just short run, but that's it. So what do you think in the comments below? Let me know. And I want to thank you for this short and quick video. You folks stay wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you have a good day. The Immortal John Hancock here, and I'm going to be discussing 2 years with the Atari VCS. I can't believe I'm saying that. As you know, the VCS was something of a controversy. You know, there was a lot of people, including myself, that didn't think it was going to come out. And lo and behold, 2 years ago in December, I received my backer unit, which I did support this on Indiegogo. I was kind of on the fence whether or not to do that. And I've done these every 6 months. I've followed the VCS and its journey, and I have a lot to talk about today. This last 6 months has been very busy for the Atari VCS. This is a hobbyist console PC hybrid. It's not competing with the Switch. It's not competing with the Xbox Series X, or even the S, or the PlayStation 5. You know, this is really just kind of a hobbyist device in which enthusiasts can check out games. There is a PC mode. I consider it kind of a mini PC, and I did dabble a little bit with that side. I'll talk with that in this video. And I just want to give you my thoughts, mostly focusing on the last 6 months and kind of a discussion about the future of it. So I've been a critic of this console hybrid along the journey. I gave it, I think, an 18-month point, I gave it a C-. And today I'm going to tell you if it's been improved or not. So first up, Atari has continued to offer its Recharge series on the Atari VCS. Yes, you can get them on the Switch and PlayStation and Xbox and even PC on Steam, but it's important that they have continued to support this console. They didn't leave it out to die. Now, I think there was an identity issue, and I think there still is an identity issue with this, but I think it is slightly getting better. Yars Recharged is, I think, in my opinion, one of my favorite Recharged games, as it takes the original and makes it better. I'm still wishing that they would include the original games on these Recharge series. They come out, they're $10. That's the other thing too, is that there's a huge sale going on their store. And so a lot of the games that I'm mentioning today, some of them are on sale, and I think that's important. Already affordable prices for the games are a little bit cheaper. To date, there is over 75 pieces of software that you can get for the Atari VCS on their store. So I do believe that the store is slightly improving. That's not including apps either. So you can use it as a media device. I'm not going to show that in this video today, but going back to Yars Recharged, I think it's one of the better games, and that came out, in August, and so that was kind of the kickoff of kind of what was to come, and even a game that came out yesterday. I'm really excited about talking about that. So next up was kind of a confusing one. So they went back to the original Missile Command that came out in 2020. And they wanted to align it more with the other Recharge games. And so that's what they did. They kind of redid it. It was a little confusing, but I did pick it up. It was on sale for people. It was on sale for people that got the original Missile Command Recharged back in 2020. And so it was like, it's like $6 or something on the Atari VCS. So that's cool too, that they went back and they offered a new version of this. It plays a little bit better, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, like control and stuff, in a bit. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. 2 Recharge games that came out the last 6 months, and then they announced some other projects. And the next one that came out, so Missile Command Recharged, the updated version came out on October 29th. And then And then in the same month, a little bit before, Atari Mania came out. Now, Atari Mania is kind of an interesting game. And overall, I was satisfied with it. It was a little expensive. It's a little bit on the expensive side. But essentially, you're playing the curator of an Atari museum. And, a character goes rogue. And you have to solve puzzles and stuff. I did get stuck in it. And eventually, I was able to overcome that. But yeah, Atari Mania, I think a lot of people wanted more original Atari games to be unlocked in that. And that was saved for another game, which was the Atari 50th. Now, a lot of people were frustrated that had not came out for the Atari VCS. It was because of a glitch, a bug. And, Atari VCS does not have a lot of people dedicated to it. The Atari company, the new Atari company, has approximately 25 staff members, and that's not that many. So they had one person dedicated to fixing Atari 50, and they finally did. And so it came out yesterday on December 20th, and it was $30. It was $10 cheaper than what was offered on other platforms. I think that was awesome. And so I didn't pick it up for Atari yet, but I did a full review on Atari 50, as well as I did a full review on Atari Mania. And you can follow those in the link below. And if you haven't already, and you are interested in subscribing, and you like the content you see, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and click the bell, as I am uploading videos every week. So getting back to this, that wasn't all that just came out. And so Orange Pixel was a company that offered a lot of bite-sized, sprite-based games, and they have transferred their games, some of their games, over to the Atari VCS, 4 in particular, and they're good games. There's Meganoid, and Meganoid came out, and I was thinking, oh, that's pretty interesting. So I checked it out, and I forgot that Orange Pixel did games such as Space Grunts. And Space Grunts is another like a strategy kind of sprite-based game. Games that you can pick up and play fairly quickly. My favorite, though, is Heroes of Loot. Now, the complaint is these games aren't new, but I think that it's still offering new content, and I think that's important. So Heroes of Loot came out end of October with, and October was a really good month. It came out, Missile Command Recharged, Atari Mania, and Heroes of Loot. These were all solid releases, and I think moving forward, I want Atari to do that more than just one game a month. I think they need to come out with a game every other week, or more frequently than they have. And so October was a really good month. Followed up with the final release, Gunslugs, another excellent game. These are well-known indie titles, and just having this company port their games over to the VCS was important, because I do think the Atari VCS still needs more content, but it is getting better. I think with the releases that I mentioned, that library starts to form. And if you're interested in some of the other releases too, check out my other videos I did on the Atari VCS as I talk about some of the other big releases that have come out in the last 2 years. But then Andstream is still an option. Andstream Arcade is a streaming service where you can play classic computers, some homebrew, and lots of arcade games. The free option, you do have a limited amount of games you can play every day, but there is a paid version. But it is an option on the Atari VCS. It's not offered on other consoles. So Andstream, I think, is a great service. I still support it. I think it is one of the strengths of the Atari VCS. And I think that things have gotten better. And so of the games mentioned, I think overall, that's pretty good. But my big complaint was, I didn't think that there was limited options on what to do with the Atari VCS, especially if you're not really like tech savvy. What Atari's done is really opened up that PC mode to more people that didn't necessarily want to dabble with it on their own. And they offered a Linux USB stick that essentially turns it over into a PC mode. And I did a dedicated video for that. And it really opens up what the Atari, I think, fully can do. And there's a lot of tech people that already understood this. My next step personally is going to be adding RAM and a hard drive, because I want to see how that helps, especially the PC mode for my Atari VCS. But going back to the USB stick that they offered, it's sold out. And I don't know when they're offering that again, but I do think it's a really cool option. I definitely bought one when it was on sale for Black Friday, and hopefully it'll come back, because I do think that is in the right direction and the right step. Even if they don't offer it, I think it shows people more about that PC mode, because unless you're really into tinkering with things, there's a lot of people out there that are just going to play the stock Atari VCS, and it does offer a lot more. And now I fully understand that. So going back, the library. So the library is on sale right now, and this is a big thing about what I want to say about Atari VCS. I was a big critic of its price. The games on sale, which I thought the games were more appropriately priced, a lot of them are up to 20% off now. And so if you go to the game library, you can see in the store, you can get several games that are on sale. Now, hardware. So, the other big news is that they're offering their hardware on sale. You can get it all in one bundle for about $240. That's with a controller and modern controller and classic joystick. Now, overall, I've actually played this quite a bit, and I do like the modern controller. So if I was to give a review, I'd give this a solid B. It's not as good as an Xbox or Switch Pro controller, but it works. It works. I don't know if I'm necessarily the biggest fan of the control pad, but overall my controllers had no issues, and a battery lasts quite a long time too. As for this thing, the classic joystick, I'm still not fully sold on this, and the reason why is the loose stick. This thing is just, you go around, it's just a little too loose for me. I have not played this with Atari 50, and so I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people enjoying playing this, the classic games, with this controller, but I'm not the biggest fan of this. This is a C for me. It's not my favorite controller. I'm glad that they made it. I do wish that center stick was a little bit more secure. As mine, this is 2 years old now. It's definitely showing some wear, and it is a little bit more loose now after playing with it. All right. So, going back to the big sale of the hardware, which all the hardware is on sale, I think, through December 23rd. That's really important, as the sale of the hardware really puts this more in line with a hobbyist console. And, I think the comparison to an Ouya 2.0 is appropriate. And overall, what do I think of the Atari VCS? Has it improved? With the sale of games, with the addition of more games to its library, and with the hardware being a lot cheaper, I'm going to give it a C+. It's far from perfect. Your expectations have to be realistic if you get this. And I want people to know that it really, getting new game releases are going to continue to trickle in. Now, a lot of people are worried that this is on sale and it's going to go away. Atari has announced, personally, that they plan on releasing themselves 18 games for the 2023. So that's really positive news. That's more games than that they typically have offered. And I think that excites me. There's many more recharge games. I want to see what the other games that they're working on are. I do not have any inside information on what those games are, but I am excited. So, overall, I think Atari is making some improvements. And even though this is far from perfect, I've been satisfied with it, especially the last 6 months. I did purchase one for a friend of mine, and more importantly, he's excited and satisfied with it, as he kind of likes to tinker with stuff. He is using it in PC mode as well, playing Steam games, and he's going to modify his with the hard drive as well. And so that's what's important. I think to fully get the use out of the Atari VCS, you have to consider all those options. And with all those options on the table, it's a pass. It's a pass, and I think it's getting a little bit better. I would like to see more games come out, and I want to thank everybody for watching this video. So what do you think? Have you checked out the Atari VCS? Do you have one? Did you give up on trying to get one? And as always, thank you for coming to my channel. If you like what you see, consider hitting the like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is Immortal John Hancock, and you take care. The Immortal John Hancock here with the Atari VCS update. What has it been doing the last 6 months? I've been an owner, and I was a backer on the Indiegogo back 2.5 years ago, and I'm here to talk about the last 6 months as a lot has happened. And I think we left off with, Atari 50 being released on the Atari VCS and a lot of questions about the future of the hardware. And there still is questions about the future of the hardware, but a lot of people thought it was being discontinued and Atari wasn't going to be supporting it anymore, and none of that is true. Atari discontinued the relationship, from what I read online, with their manufacturer, as I think they were on a bunch of stock. I think they have plenty of hardware systems to still sell, and that's why they ended that relationship. I don't know any of the details. That's just a speculation, but from what I read officially from their statements, that's what I got from it. But anyways, Atari in the last 6 months has released 18 games. 18 games have been published on its platform, and I think that's great. I think it's been robust, and there's been lots of variety with some of the releases, with many more planned. So it's really nice to not only see that Atari is supporting this hardware, which is fairly obscure. This is not going to sell like the Switch. It's kind of in this weird, Ouya 2.0. I think that's a fair judgment of it, where it's a platform that offers lots of indie stuff. It doesn't really have an iconic game to say it's an exclusive, but there's enough games on there. You can use it as a mini PC, which I've done, and that is actually fairly robust. And you can add an SSD hard drive to it. You can add RAM to it. You can mod it. You can run emulators on it with some modding. But really, I'm here just to talk about what do I think of it overall. Where does it go from here? And, my biggest complaint with the Atari VCS is I think it didn't really have an identity. And I think they're really starting to change that. Is it there yet? Not yet. But I think they've done a lot of things right, and I'm going to jump into this. So, Orange Pixel Games has continued to offer its library on this platform. Residual is a good example. Gunslugs 2, Heroes of Loot 2. Those are fantastic games, and it's nice to see. It's a perfect, I think, fit for the Atari VCS. And I think if you're looking for high-end 3D games, you're not going to find it on the VCS. So it's capable of some 3D games. Most of it is indie stuff, and that's fine with me, as I'm a big indie supporter. And so you also have other games like A Path to the Princess, a puzzle game, footage shown from Steam. And then they got weird stuff like Skinny and Franco. And this is like an update to a classic computer brawler. And boy, it's obscure and weird and violent. And I haven't checked it out a ton, but anyways, footage is there. And then you have stuff like Avian Nights, which is kind of like a take on Joust with more multiplayer functionality, and it looks pretty interesting. And so you have these releases coming along, and it's kind of chugging along. And then Metgan's games, which I did purchase these games, Escape from Popo, and that's kind of a really cool take on a classic game. As you know, I know many people have really enjoyed that one. And then Doodle Taxi, which to me is like an indie crazy taxi. It's just kind of nuts. I did enjoy purchasing that. And then Traffic Mission, which is really tough. That is a super tough game, but from what I've played, limited amount, I have enjoyed it. But then I feel like, in the last couple months, Atari really has started to kind of really identify with what they want to do. And I was really excited to see that they got a programmer of the original Hero game for Activision, and they are offering Alien Abduction. And that is a kind of a, you definitely can see the nods from Hero in this 2600 game being offered aftermarket game on the Atari VCS. And that really kind of started the ball rolling. And then you had classics Tower Rubble and Amoeba Jump, which is a fantastic aftermarket game. And that is a great fit on the VCS. But that's not just it. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. You know, there's other things that you could say about the VCS that makes it pretty unique. I've talked in the past about Antstream Arcade, which I think is a good fit on the Atari VCS. But it's about the future. Atari's got some things planned. I don't know the details. Some of the things planned are the acquisitions. So Atari did purchase Night Dive Studios. That's the big one. They have acquired 4 different lots and companies of games. They did go back and buy some of Stern's classic arcade games, including Berserk, which I'm sure they're going to probably do like a recharge of the Berserk. Nothing announced yet, but I'm sure that's coming. Really excited to see that. One of my favorite Atari 2600 games of all time. Accolade, they bought 100 games from Accolade's previous library. I don't know what I think of that, but I mean, they're going to do something with that. They're not just going to sit on it. And so really cool to see that, as well as M Network. But the big one was Night Dive Studios, as those are some classic computer games, as well as Night Dive just remade System Shock. And I did a video on that if you want to check it out. Would love to see that on the VCS. I'm pretty sure it could probably be able to handle it. I would love to see System Shock. It'd be a day one purchase for me, even though I have it on my Steam Deck. So, I'm in a little different scenario with talking about the VCS, because now I'm not just a consumer, I'm a publisher. And if you didn't see, I announced that 2 of my games that I own distribution rights to, Catacombs of Chaos and Retro Game Quest, are now available on the platform. And as an independent publisher, it has been super simple to get my games, especially 2600 games, on the platform. And I want to thank Atari for that, as you know, it has been pretty much a seamless experience. Now, I'm also just offering these at a very reasonable price of $2.99 a piece, and you know, didn't offer these to make a bunch of money or to live on. So I have very clear expectations. These may not sell well at all for me, but I'm really excited about at least offering it on a platform. And Atari being so open to that independent market, I think, is wonderful. And I encourage other developers or publishers, you know, you want to consider the VCS if you just want to get your name out for games, as well as, you know, they might be open to it, as you know, there's less competition on the VCS, so there might be an easier way where a small indie publisher can offer their games and not be in such a crowded marketplace. But anyways, that's not all. Atari has some other things planned. I don't know the details. I haven't been given any information, but there's possibly some rumored hardware to come down the road. I have no idea what it's about. My dream would be that it would be hardware to play retro games, whether it's Atari 2600, 7800, even other platforms, Sega, 8-bit, Jaguar. I mean, I have dreams of what it could be, but I have no idea what it could be, but hopefully that is coming. And so there is some planned hardware to be announced. I don't know when. I don't know the details. All I know is that it could possibly come this year. And so, yeah. And so overall, what do I think of Atari? I think they have done a better job at identifying kind of what direction they want to go. And there's still more games coming. That's what I'm excited about. The next big game that they have. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention, Caverns of Mars and Aka R were released this year as well. And those are 2 games that I covered in previous videos. You can check out my Atari playlist where you can find those games. And those were fantastic releases this last 6 months as well. And so getting back to the future of the Atari VCS, they do have Mr. Run and Jump, and that's going to be offered on multiple platforms. It looks like a cute little Everrunner, and that looks pretty cool. But that's not all. So I'm really excited about Mr. Run and Jump. I'm going to be purchasing that. Really excited about seeing that. That's their next kind of big game. But the next things that they're doing too is they're offering actually a 2600 version of this on cartridge. That's right. They're really moving forward with offering 2600 games on physical. I actually have purchased myself a few of them. I haven't even opened them up, so I haven't been able to give my review of them. They were $100 a piece. That's pretty expensive, but you know, as a collectible, cool. But you definitely can be able to find, you know, cheaper versions of this if you just want to get original Atari hardware and play it on 2600. But I think that's really cool that they're doing deluxe collector's editions of games. Price is pretty expensive though, and it's sold out. But going back to Atari VCS and Atari in general, I do like the direction that they're going. It still has tons of room of improvement, but I think it's getting actually better. I think having more releases and having better, they seem like they've had better communication about those releases, and you can find out a lot of information. They do have a Discord, as well as on Atari Age. I actually visit the Atari VCS sub forum, and that's where I get a lot of my information. As you know, I'm an active member of Atari Age, and I try to use that forum as it's a little bit of everything. So that's my update for the Atari VCS. I do think it's getting a little bit better. It has a lot of room for improvement, and I'm excited about to see what is next. I have lots of questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. And if you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care. The Immortal John Hancock here, and I thought I'd do an update to the Atari VCS. I haven't talked about it in many months, and you know what? There's lots of questions people have about, you know, is it still around? How are the games? And, you know, with upcoming holidays, you know, and Atari kind of focusing on the 2600 plus, as well as, you know, there's a lot of talk about the Game Station Pro video I just did about that. Atari's doing a lot of things. And so, you know, I wanted to talk to people and really tell them that the Atari VCS is still on the market. No, it's not a huge seller. It's really for hobbyists and enthusiasts. You're going to have a lot of opinions about this. I've done several videos on the Atari VCS. I am a publisher for it, and I have some news to share at the end of this video. And, you know, just want to say that the VCS is still around. You can get the base model for $200. Sometimes it goes on sale. I'm sure it's going to go on sale probably for the holidays, and has well over approximately about 120 games now. And I purchased several. I did get a review code for a game I'm going to show in this video. Out of nowhere, Neo Sprint got offered early access, and you can check this game out now. It's $14.99. There's going to be some bugs. You have to run it in the 1080p mode. You can't do it in the 4K mode. There's like a bug. There's bugs and glitches, and you can join the Discord as well to talk about that and to share that information to make it better. I had an issue with getting into the game. I rebooted my console and it is fine. So anyways, the Neo Sprint game is an homage to, you know, Championship Sprint, the Sprint series Atari owns. And you know what? It's pretty sweet. And so first and foremost, this is not a finished product. It is early access, which means there's going to be some things about it that need to be finalized, but you can customize tracks, you can play it, and I really liked what I played so far. I think that the control needs to be tweaked, but you can purchase it now for $14.99, and it will be more expensive, and it's planned to come out next year, first quarter of 2024. So that tells you right there that Atari is not giving up on the VCS. By then, the VCS had been out 3 years. And so we're nearing 3 years, and there's a lot of people that, you know, last holiday when they announced that they were terminating their manufacturing agreement with the manufacturer that was making VCS, I predicted and think that they still just have so many on hand to sell. They're fine and will be fine moving forward. And so I don't know the total sales numbers of the VCS. It's not great, but what's more important is that they're supporting it and they're continuing to have games out on the console, and I think that's more important, that they're supporting it and continuing to move forward. I know that that is a question a lot of people have. There's been over 30 games this year alone, and they keep coming out, and it seems like the releases have been more rapid as of the last like 3 or 4 months. And so I'm going to just show some games here and just talk about it. This is a talk video saying the VCS is still around, and just wanted to share some of the newer games that came out that I have purchased. Next up is Superstar 16. This is a Tempest-style independent game, and I really like what I've played so far. Seizure warning, by the way, so heads up. This has lots of flashing lights, and so this part of the video, just a heads up that this may impact some viewers. And so Superstar 16, I really like the commercial they did. It's like a really funny commercial, and it's included in the game when you purchase it. $6. I did get a review code of this, and just a shout out, there's a free demo as well. That's another thing too. I like that the VCS is offering a few free games. There's another free game that's on the store as well, and I think that's a good approach for the VCS. Yes, I know that a lot of people are wondering, well, there's not a lot of games on it, or there's not a lot of exclusive games. Yes, but they're still offering frequent releases, and I think that's more important, that they haven't given up on this console, even though the sales aren't too great. And so, going back to Superstar 16, I like this one. If you're a fan of Tempest, it's got that kind of Tempest vibe to it, and shout out to the independent publishers, as these people are offering these games at affordable prices. I think that $6 price point is excellent as well. Next up, another game I purchased is Planetary Defense Force, and this is a tower defense game. And sometimes I get into these. I really like this game, and so you're going around, you're setting up defenses, but you're a character as well that can defend against enemies. It's like a planetary defense game with 2 different levels, and I like it. I like it a lot. In fact, I really enjoyed the graphics of this one and kind of the setup. And so I haven't played too much of it so far, but definitely want to dive more into this one, as I think there's going to be fans of these types of games, and I highly recommend it. Please check it out. And so the big thing that Atari started to do, and I was one of the early publishers for 2600 Homebrews, and another game that's being offered, there's a pair of them actually, and Muddy Vision is the publisher, and that's Tire Tracks. They offered a pair of 2600 Homebrews, and I think this is a great move for the Atari VCS, as I think this is really something that they can offer that not many other people can. And a huge shout out, because I think Tire Tracks kind of reminds me of like an Activision game, definitely with a cover art and everything. It looks like an Activision game on the 2600. And so this is a fun little racer game. I really enjoyed what they did here. I think it's a fantastic game, and I'm really excited to see that. It's $4. Totally happy to support a homebrew 2600 game on the VCS. I hope more's coming, and more is coming, and I'm here to announce that my game, Game Panic 3, is coming soon. It's tentative for Friday, October 13th, and you can play this on the VCS hopefully soon. That's a tentative date for it, as well as I'll have physical copies of this at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, as well as Torg. And so really happy to support the VCS as a publisher, and I think that this really is what I think the VCS can stand out and be, at least identify as something different. And they've been excellent to work with, super easy to collaborate with Atari to get my game on the VCS, and a shout out to them and a thank you for all the support. So next up, the Recharge series is continuing, and one that kind of came out of nowhere was Quantum Recharge, and I purchased it. I have all the other Recharge games for the VCS, and Quantum was kind of a obscure arcade game where you're circling items and you're getting a score. This one's okay, but you know what? For $10 price point, it's on several other things. I think that's an excellent option if you're a fan of the Recharge series, but that's not it. Coming this year, there's 2 other big games that Atari has leased behind, and I'm sure there's many, many more. But the 2 as well that they have announced is Berserk Recharge. That's right, that just got announced. And, it's got co-op. It's got many different levels. It looks good. It's got the Return of Evil Auto The Berserk Recharge is something, you know, Berserk one being one of my favorite original arcade games. Atari purchased the rights from Stern, so now they're offering Berserk themed stuff, and I'm really excited. I'm really happy that Atari went out and purchased that. I think it's a good fit for their name. And seeing a Berserk Recharge, if you're a fan of the Recharge series, you may want to check this out. That's coming this year. The other big one that's coming out in a few days is Haunted House. And Haunted House looks pretty good as well. And it's a little confusing because they've come out with a couple of other Haunted House games. One included, a few included on Atari 50, but this looks pretty good. And so this is going to be offered on multi-platforms as well. And, you know, I think this is good that this is a good move for Atari in general. And so I just wanted to do an update to the VCS saying there's games coming. I think they're doing a good job supporting a console that really is on probably life support, but you know, it's nearing 3 years, and it's more support than I thought anybody else expected. And in the comments below, I want you to tell me, have you thought about getting a VCS? Are you worried about it being discontinued? You know, for me, all I can say is I've enjoyed the Atari VCS over the approximately a little bit over 2.5 years that I've owned it. I was the original backer. And so far, you know, having those games constantly come out, as well as some of the games that I've covered on my channel, Ends Reach being the other one. That's a pretty fun little indie title. Kind of reminds me of like an early 2000s 3D platform game. You may want to check that video out, as well as my other VCS games. And as always, I want to thank everybody for coming to my channel and viewing this. If you like what you see, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care. The Immortal John Hancock here, and today I'm reflecting upon 3 years with the Atari VCS. I can't believe it's been 3 years already, but here we are in December 3 years ago. I got my Indiegogo pre-order, and it was sent to me. I was shocked. And, you know, I've talked about the Atari VCS on my channel. I've done several other videos. And what I typically do is, you know, honestly, I look at it every couple months. I follow along on Atari Age, where they discuss the Atari VCS upcoming games. I've purchased several games on my own. I'm a publisher as well. I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And, you know, the Atari VCS has made it. For 3 years, it's been on the market. That's 3 years longer than many people, including myself, thought it would be. There was a lot of controversy last year when Atari announced they were discontinuing their agreement with the manufacturer of the Atari VCS. Everybody thought it was going to go away. Well, it's been on the market yet another year and actually had over 30 games come out on the Atari VCS store. And that is pretty solid. It's not perfect, and I'm going to talk about what I think about the Atari VCS. I have some questions about it moving forward and kind of reflect upon the last 6 months. I've done several other videos, and so what I try to do on these videos is look at every 6 months, where's it at, well, what are the good things and bad. And, you know, the Atari VCS has been an eclectic combination of games, and there's been just a lot of different things being thrown at it. And I'm going to talk about that. All right, first and foremost, some of the cooler games that I purchased myself were Basket Boom by Metkin Games. And you know what? Really cool indie game. And I think this is a good example of the types of games you can find on the Atari VCS. This one is compatible with modern and classic controller. And I had a lot of fun with this one with leaderboards and stuff. Just a simple game, that affordable price. You know, this is a good example and of an indie title, and I like Metkin Games. Purchased some other games from them and really enjoy this one. Millie and Greg is a new one. Kind of has the NES style to it, where you're trying to find your animal each stage. Lots of fun. Okay, that one just came out in December, and so Atari's been pretty consistent with offering an eclectic, different types of games every month for the past 6 months, both good and bad, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. My own game, Game Panic 3, a game that I published with Jason Santucci, and you know what, it came out on Atari. And, as a publisher, Atari's been pretty easy to deal with. It's the third 2600 game that I publish. You're not going to be making a lot of revenue on this, but Atari gives up to 88% to the publisher for any revenue brought in for what you sell on their marketplace. And so Game Panic 3 was easy to offer on the Atari VCS. And I have to say, as a publisher, especially if you're a publisher and you just want to offer an independent game, it might stand out a little bit more on a less crowded market. And really, Atari VCS, 3 years in, 135 games-ish. Some of those are subjective, but that is kind of where the Atari is at. And so that is a good thing, I think. I think overall, it is a good thing. I think that Atari is doing a good job at least trying to continue with this. The management that brought the Atari VCS to life has changed, and so I think looking at where it is now, I think even Atari may wonder what they're going to be doing with it. But the bottom line is they probably are sitting on some stock still. There was a recent sale, and it dropped it down to less than $200 for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and now it's back up to normal price. So it's back up to that $300 price point, which is tough. That's a tough sell for this, as I think this is going to be better served for like hobbyists. It's not going to compete with Xbox. It's not going to compete with PlayStation or Switch. But, at a discounted price, it does quite a bit. I'm not going to talk about the PC mode. I did a whole video on that. You know what? For people that want to do that with their Atari VCS, you may want to go that route. But I think overall, the Atari right now is kind of a mixed bag. First and foremost, they need to get back to what they initially started in October. What they need to start doing is offering more homebrew games on their system, and that really is up to the individual publishers. Elite Xeno Operations was an amazing 7800 game. It was so awesome it was being offered on the 7800. And, a Zero Page Homebrew offered his game. Another 26 Homebrew. There's a bowling game. And there's some others, okay? I think there was like 5 2600 homebrew games offered so far and a couple 7800 games. Want to see more. Really comes down to whether or not a publisher wants to do that, though. So that's really not Atari's fault, but that's just an example of, I think that is the identity that Atari could take with a VCS that would separate it from, an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch. They could offer lots of different Atari games on their console. The real downside is still no Lynx, still no Jaguar outside of Atari 50 collection, which is on Atari VCS, but the game's so large it causes its own issues with the updates and marketplace. Let's talk about the marketplace. There's a zip code error, and it sounds to me like people are still having issues with it. On the Discord, I do believe Atari announced that they might have solved it, but people are still having issues. That is a huge hindrance with the updates as well as getting this out of the box. There's several updates that you need to get, and that could be very frustrating with getting this hardware that's now going on 3 years. There's several updates to make it better. Atari is looking to update the store, do like a complete wipe and offer a new store, and I think that will be great. The store setup is a little hokey, and that's a knock on it, because I think that experience it takes away from a lot of people really enjoying their VCS. For me, purchasing a new hardware unit last year, I had to go through that, had to go through customer service to get essentially an update on a USB stick, and that fixed things. But not many people are going to do that. On top of the zip code error, which means some people can't purchase new games. I haven't had that experience myself, so there's that. Atari themselves, though, is still supporting this. Games such as a Neo Sprint, which is an updated a sprint game. I still believe it's still in beta with some updates and stuff. I purchased it early, and I talked about that in a video I did a couple months ago. And so that's a good example of them still supporting this, offering first-party games. Then you had games such as like Quantum Recharge. Really nice to see that. In fact, I went back and played that. There's also games that you can play with the classic controller, you know, and I think for some people out there, that's a draw, you know, playing some Atari classics with this. I think this is okay. The stick is a little bit loose for me and a little short on the base. I don't necessarily love this controller. Some people do. With the paddle built in for some games, that's pretty awesome. I still think that it's better that they did this than not offer it at all. And for some games, your mileage is going to vary on that. I used mostly the modern controller, had no problems, and you know what? It's not the same quality as like an Xbox Series X, but it's pretty close. And I've really enjoyed this controller. I like the size of it. And overall, I've been pleased with the build quality of my system in general. I haven't had any issues. Haven't modded it either. Next step is that I plan to mod it and update the hard drive as well as RAM. And I'll talk about that in a future video, hopefully. So going back to Atari, they also offered Haunted House, Days of Doom, and Berserk. You know, Haunted House was a nice release, and I do believe many Atari fans enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it had nice graphics, and I liked that they were kind of getting away from the Recharge series and offering kind of an updated IP and having its own experience. A Lunar Lander Beyond, I think, is one plan, but I don't know if it's coming to the VCS. I don't know. But it looks pretty cool, and I'm excited about at least playing that on Steam or other platforms. But I will get it on the VCS, as I wonder if it would be great with this controller, as that would be one I would love to check out. You also had Days of Doom was another game, and you know, I kind of overlooked this when it came out, and it's another game that I think Atari did a good job with. And this, you know, playing it recently a little bit, showing the Switch footage, by the way. But you know what? I think that is an excellent choice for the Atari VCS or whatever platform. And you know what? That's kind of the challenge with this moving forward. There's not a lot of exclusives. That's the other thing about the VCS. They don't have a lot of exclusives. There's a couple, or there's timed exclusives. Ends Reach is a good example. You know, that was an independent title. Really loved that. And you know what? Picked it up on the VCS. It was a timed exclusive. I don't know if it still is, but you know, that's a great game, kind of a throwback to like an early 2000s platformer. Looks like a Xbox game or a little N64. It has, you know, that early 2000s graphics. A lot of fun though. It's a really great game. The downside is, you know, Atari's hard drive space is pretty small, and I've purchased so many games that I'm actually finding myself having to move them over to like an SD card, which, you know, it doesn't cost that much, but still, having that small hard drive space, kind of annoying. You have to like delete games or transfer them over to a memory card, kind of annoying. But getting back to my thoughts about the VCS, there's a couple services that I do enjoy and appreciate, and I've talked about these in previous videos. The Antstream Arcade. Antstream Arcade is a great service. It's still free on the VCS. It's different than the Xbox version, and so you can pay for like a monthly fee of like $4, or you can just play the free version. And you know, I play the free version currently on Antstream, but it offers a lot of games, a lot of Atari games that aren't offered elsewhere, and I think that's interesting and strange. I wish Atari would offer more Lynx and Jaguar games, ST. These are all games I think that the VCS-A could handle through emulation, and I think it would be a great offering and a perfect place to do so. And so it's another thing I wish Atari would think about, as it would separate it more than offering anything else anywhere on, you know, those games are rarely offered on new platforms, and it might be another offering that they could do. I don't know what's stopping them, or if they don't think it's financially viable. I don't know, but it would be interesting and cool to see that moving forward. Xbox Cloud Gaming is another thing that with a mouse and keyboard, you can offer that service through your VCS. Kind of cool that you can play your Xbox Game Pass games on your VCS, maybe remotely, maybe if you have this set up on a separate TV or something. Pretty cool. And then going back to the VCS selection of games, you know, 135 games, It has a wide variety. You're mostly going to see a lot of indie titles and some Atari first-party stuff, some classic games. A lot of 7800 games have been offered only on the VCS, which is kind of neat. But it kind of brings up a question, you know, how are you playing Atari these days? This might be a future video, and I might just delve into it. But there's lots of different ways of playing Atari games now. Game Station Pro, you have the new 2600 Plus, and that brings up questions about what is Atari going to do with the VCS moving forward? Are they going to scrap it? Are they going to, you know, send it off into the sunset after this next year? There's not a big schedule of games coming out. That's my biggest issue I have with the VCS right now is, you know, I didn't know how much longer it was going to be on the market. And after a year, there's been 30 games. It kind of appears that Atari is still just like, whatever sticks, we'll just put it onto the console and publish it. And I just wish there was more focus. I wish there was more a scheduled release, even 2 or 3 months. You know, I bring up Evercade, and I might have brought this up in a previous video, but Evercade is a company, and they plan out their releases. Hey, this is coming out this month. This is coming out this month. I really wish Atari would do a better job with that. And maybe they don't know. Food Fight is a game that comes to mind. I know people recently have worked on that, but I don't know any other information if it's going to come out. It was scheduled for a previous year, and it never came to light. So I don't know if there was a bug in it or a hiccup. But man, I would love to see more classics come on the VCS. Fingers crossed for another year. And in the comments below, what do you think? You know, I've talked about this console for quite a long time. Here I am, year 3. It's still on the market. It's still being sold. Unfortunately, the sale price has ended. Now it's back up to full price. Hopefully it can go on sale again. I don't know how much longer it's going to be on the market. I'm just grateful it's here, and I still play mine. It's not a daily driver for me. It's one that I pick up and play, you know, every other month. I check out new games, purchase a few, play with them, talk to a friend of mine who also I purchased a VCS for. He enjoys his, and we're about the same opinion of it, you know. I think it's a great experiment that Atari did. It didn't sell a bunch, but it's still hanging in there. And I'm grateful that Atari is still supporting it, and I will continue to do so and continue to talk about it. So thank you so much. That's what I think about Atari after 3 years. It's a C for me. It's a pass. It could be a lot better, and I'm concerned about how much longer it's going to be on the market, and that's my final thoughts. What do you think in the comments below? Let me know. And as always, thank you for coming to this channel. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. Let's keep it positive. This is the Immortal John Hancock, and you take care. The Immortal John Hancock here, and today I'm talking about the Atari VCS 3.5 years later after release. I was an original backer. I reflect upon this kind of console PC hybrid every 6 months. I've done many videos on it. You can check them out below in my Atari playlist where I cover many things Atari, but I cover lots of different things, classic and modern. Anyways, back to the Atari VCS. You know what? I was original backer and got this around Christmas time. I was surprised when it came out and have been following it and playing it and purchasing games over the last 3.5 years. And there's lots to say about this. It hasn't been a stellar success. It's kind of sputtered along, ups and downs, and I'm here to talk about those things and really talk about the last 6 months. I'm going to focus this video on the last 6 months, what's been going on. I own about half the library. There's about 164 games offered on the digital marketplace of this modern console PC hybrid, and there's lots of opinions about this, whether you love it or hate it or haven't even know about it, because it's just kind of out there. And you know what, there's a lot of people that don't even understand what it is, and I'm here to kind of talk about what is on this device and my thoughts about it from both a consumer and an independent publisher. I have 4 of my games on the marketplace. A recent one came out. I'm going to talk about that. And you know what? It's been up and down, but the last 6 months has been okay. And a lot of people may not even know that this is still on the marketplace. That's how crowded the video game marketplace is. But, you know, Atari is continuing to support this. The original team that made this is no longer around, I do believe, and Atari is just continuing to not drop the ball and offer games on this device, as well as a lot of indie releases. And we're going to jump right in. Last 6 months has had a steady release of about 25 games. And you know what? The challenge with Atari VCS is that many of the games are offered on other devices. And it doesn't have an identity. I've talked about this in recent videos that have talked about the VCS, its ups and downs. It's had some marketplace issues. There's a few games that kind of came out and then were taken off. You know what? And there's been some people having purchasing issues. The actual setup of the marketplace could be polished and upgraded. I know that Atari is looking at doing that. Anyways, let's jump into the games. There's several games that have come out that have gotten my attention and I've purchased. Cash Cow being probably the best release in the last 6 months. And this is from the developer of Donut Dodo. And fantastic arcade style game. My friend best described this, who also owns an Atari VCS, as Miner 2049er on acid. And you know what? It's just a great little arcade style game. Really fast Twitch gaming. Difficult like Donut Dodo, and a must buy. This is probably one of the better games coming out on the Atari VCS. The downside is that there's not as many games. The games that come out on the Atari VCS are offered elsewhere, so it doesn't have like a very specific identity. But I'm glad that Cash Cow is being offered on the VCS, and it is a must play. Next, Atari did a pair of games themselves. The better one, I think, is Lunar Lander Beyond. And some people have issues with the art style. I do like that Atari has gotten away from the Recharge series and kind of branching out and doing its own IPs with like full featured games. And so Lunar Lander Beyond is one of these games. I liked it. I liked it a lot better than I thought I was gonna. The reviews were kind of mixed on it. It's on Steam as well as other modern consoles. And you know what? I do like the VCS has its version. I'm showing the Steam gameplay here. But you know what? I think this is kind of the direction I'm hoping Atari goes with, and they offer more games like this. The other game that they offered in this time period was Quomp 2. And you know what? It's like Pong with meets adventure. I think it's okay. I don't know if it's my favorite game. It's a little slow. But for people that like those puzzle adventure games mixed with a little bit of Pong, it's a unique take on it. I liked it. I liked it, but I don't know if I loved it. There's several other independent game releases that came out during this time period. And one of them was Circus Interstellar. This is a Steam release that came out years ago, now offered on the VCS. And you know what? For people that might have missed the Steam version, this is great. You know, I met the development team at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, saw their booth. It was pretty awesome. They had their games set up in an arcade one-up, and you know what? It looked fantastic. 4-player mayhem. It's essentially like Berserk in space with clowns, and you know it's pretty violent. But for people looking for that type of game, it's here. It's pretty fun to play, definitely with co-op. Anyways, the other recommendations that I purchased and picked up is Asteroid V Claw. Now, Atari VCS doesn't get enough recognition for paddle games. Paddle games are pretty cool, but there's not enough of them. And what's cool about Metkin Games is that they've really kind of supported paddle games and have made independent paddle games. And Asteroid V Claw is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I highly recommend it. It's kind of a take on Asteroids meets a paddle game, and it's just well done. It's a perfect example of, I think, the identity that Atari VCS needs. They need exclusive games. This is an exclusive game, and something that I think is a good fit. It's got a mix of some decent graphics. It's not too retro. It's a little bit of modern, but it definitely has that indie vibe. It's a thumbs up for me, and I highly recommend it. You also have shooters like Madness Beverage, and this is kind of a boomer shooter. It's got I'm showing like a retro PC mode on it. This game's okay. Again, another violent game, but you know what? If you're looking for that type of like, classic 90s shooter, you can do much worse than Madness Beverage. Accuracy, at least with a controller, is a little bit difficult, but you can tweak that in the settings. And you know what? Just another game that I think is well worth picking up, especially at that $10 price point. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for digital game releases on the VCS. Games that are $10 or fewer, sometimes they're on sale. And I do think it's awesome that Atari is doing a good job at having frequent releases from themselves or independent publishers such as myself. Now, that's just a small sampling of the games that came out this last 6 months. The other thing I need to mention is the Polygunner demo. That's really looking forward to this release. And it's well polished. It's a demo. You can download it and check it out free. And, this is from Retro Ninja. Retro Ninja also released BPM Boy, which is a fantastic game, kind of in the same vein as like Marble Madness, but a lot more to it. Highly recommend that game. Another game you can check out on the VCS. But I'm really a big fan of Polygunner. I'm not the best player at it. Played the demo, really enjoy it. I think it's a good mix of what the VCS is capable of when you have a established developer and programmer who knows its architecture. Anyways, that's just one sliver of what the VCS can offer. Atari's offered a solid state drive, which I have added to my VCS. I didn't get the Atari branded one, but that does add a lot of additional hard drive space. It's really easy to do yourself. I did have a friend help install some RAM as well. I don't know if it makes a huge difference with just the VCS releases, but if you're going to double your VCS console as a PC, which I did pick up one of their Linux USB sticks, you know what? Overall, Atari is trying to do something. They're probably sitting on a bunch of hardware. I think that makes it challenging. What do they do with the Atari VCS moving forward? It's still an eclectic group of things, and it still is challenged by having what is the identity of the Atari VCS. And so I think a lot of people that aren't like hardcore into it may be scratching their heads. What is this thing? Is it worth picking up? I think it's worth picking up on sale. 2 or 3 times a year it goes on sale, reduces down to less than $200 for the all-in-one bundle. Might be worth checking out. There's enough games on there I can recommend, especially if you're not if you don't have a Steam Deck, you don't have Steam or a Switch, this might be something to check out. Otherwise, I would stick with your Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch, because I think most of those games are covered on those consoles, especially Steam. Moving forward, the VCS has another aspect to it, and it's independent aftermarket Atari 7800 and 2600 releases. And there's a multitude of them. There was a trilogy, the Dragons trilogy, that came out, and you know what? I picked these up. Dragon's Catch is one of the games shown here. Pretty fun little puzzle game. The other one is Dragon's Havoc, which is a kind of a more of a classic shooter. And there was a trilogy of these games offered on the 7800, and there was a ton other 25 games total on the Atari VCS, and about 10 of them were Atari 7800 releases. And these are aftermarket games, including my game, Block'em Sock'em. The 7800 release was offered recently on the Atari VCS, and you know what? I think it's one of the best versions of the game. Now, Atari is working on offering additional features on the VCS, and it's unknown. Block'em Sock'em, the 7800 version, has a whole additional soundtrack using Yamaha sound. Unfortunately, that's not available yet on the Atari VCS. Fingers crossed that they can figure that out, as it does add an additional aspect to this amazing puzzle game. And done by Daryl G., my good friend, and you know what? He is the programmer of Popeye for the Atari 7800, and Block'em Sock'em. He did an amazing job programming this, based on the Adam Welch Second Dimension version of Block'em Sock'em, but Daryl offered his own spin on the game with additional things such as throwing up at the top of the screen after the game, after a level's cleared. There's bonus scores. There's a lot of little extras on this release. Highly recommend it, and it's done pretty good. I've been very happy with the success of this game on the Atari VCS. You may want to check it out. And, it gets a thumbs up for me. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorite Atari 7800 programmers, and that's Robert De Crescenzo. And he has a multitude of his games now being offered on the Atari 7800 on the Atari VCS, and that is Frenzy is one of them. Crystal Quest, Space Duel. There's several other games that Pac-Man Plus, username on Atari Age, has done. Highly recommend Frenzy because that's built-in Berserk 2-player action. This is one of my favorite games conversions that he has done, and it's great that Atari has given a thumbs up and approval of it. It's so awesome that essentially independent programmer made a aftermarket port, and then Atari gives the thumbs up for it and offers that game for them on the VCS. How awesome is that? I wish more bigger companies would support independent releases such as this, especially since Atari wasn't going to make a 7800 version, and he just said, all right, you can sell your version of the game on the marketplace. Awesome. Finally, I've talked about this before in previous videos, and I do think Atari not only offers its games, offers independent games, you can also have a PC mode on the VCS, but there's also services such as Stream Arcade. Now, it's one of the many things, I've talked about this in previous videos. I do think I like the free version offered on the Atari VCS. This is just adding a dimension of games that you can play through your VCS, especially if you don't have a multitude of other consoles. You also can do Xbox Cloud Gaming. Yes, you can sign in to your Xbox account and play through your Atari VCS and that's another aspect that I think is pretty cool. Now, let's talk about overall, what do I think of the Atari VCS? I still think it's a mixed bag. I still think that it has challenges as identifying itself. What is it? What is it? It's kind of an eclectic combination of both independent releases, aftermarket, classic 26 and 7800 games, a little bit of modern that Atari is offering, as well as something else. 164 games as this video is being released. And overall, it gets a C for me. I think it gets a C. It's not terrible. It's not great. It has to do more. And I think it has to do a better job at advertising. What is it? And has the ship sailed for the Atari VCS? What is left? What else is going to be coming out? Are they have big plans for it? I have no idea. I personally think that they made a lot of hardware consoles, and they've sat on them, and they're just offering them as best as they can. A thumbs up to Atari, though, for continuing to support this. 3.5 years is a lot longer than I anticipated them offering this console, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else is on it. In the comments below, let me know. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you see, consider hitting that like and subscribe button and clicking the bell as I'm uploading videos every week. You folks are wonderful and beautiful. This is the Immortal John Hancock.